Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Rydell, actor and now podcast host, I guess. That guy you've seen on a million TV shows and movies, but you still do not know my name.
And I'm David Allen Bache, actor and sometimes producer, and you also recognize me from lots of films and TV shows, but you probably couldn't name one of them right now if I paid you to.
The two of us and our guests are going to let you in on some secrets on how to make it as an actor and share some private stories from the many movies and TV shows that we've worked on.
That's right. We're going to interview a special guest each week, and we'll get their best advice and wisdom for you about how to break into this business and how to stay in it. And yes, again, there will be stories, stories, stories. So, let's get to it.
This is Confessions of a Working Actor.
Okay, recording in progress.
We're recording, man.
We're recording. This is going to be a great episode, and
I'm excited about today.
How are we doing? What do you think, Chris? How is the podcast going?
I think we're getting tens and tens of listens.
I think both of our good reviews were shining and glowing. Actually, I think there are actually some really good reviews and ratings, which is nice.
Yeah.
Most of it's about you. Most of it's about your voice and your personality.
Yeah,
so,
come on, you're just saying that.
I was.
Because your
I think
voice
it's even.
Is so good.
I think it's both of us. Right. You know, it was weird because, as you know, my wife was on the show as a guest, and when we were finished, I said, "What did you think?" And she's like, "I really like Chris's voice." And I was like,
wow.
"Honey, I'm supposed to be the voice." Yeah,
I'm the VO guy
in this house, and just in my house, not on the podcast.
In my house,
in my house. Yeah, and you're the VO guy in your house. That's right. Perfect. Well, I think you sound great, by the way. All right. Listen, folks, hold on to your hats because on this week's episode, we have a ridiculously funny guy. Seriously. I mean, no one should be allowed to be this funny. I feel like it's a little bit dangerous.
Well, it is. And you probably know him from Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Reno 911. And I know he does a lot of work, so he's probably done other projects that don't have a 9 in it.
Probably. He's done some of the funniest episodes of Drunk History I've ever seen. I think he did like 4 or 5 of them. Wet Hot American Summer, Burning Love, and let's go way back now. But I know that true comedy fans will remember that he was a cast member from MTV's brilliantly funny The State.
Oh, yeah, my son was very excited that he was going to be on the show. He was like, "Damn, that guy's fucking funny." I love him. Let's all welcome Joe Lo Truglio.
Hey, everybody. Hi, guys.
Welcome, Joe.
Thanks so much for having me for that very generous intro. But I must know, how does my voice sound and compare to like the winners there that you have right now hosting this show?
You got to ask David's wife.
That's exactly. We should ask Alicia.
Exactly. I'm going to play this. I'm going to play the podcast back for her tonight in a dark room, and I'll let you know how it
Fair
goes,
enough.
Joe. Let's see.
Fair enough.
We did have somebody who was it that their animals were freaking out.
Oh, yeah. Well, David DeLuise. Yeah. I think it was David DeLuise, and his dogs and cats were just going bonkers. Yeah.
Oh, yeah? I know. They were jealous of the attention, perhaps.
It could be. I know I sometimes am. It could be. Joe, thanks for coming on and talking to us.
Thanks for having me.
We really appreciate it.
Sure.
And, we want to talk about lots of different things that you did, but first I just want to say that before you and I ever met each other, I don't know if you remember this at all, but we would sort of pass each other and wave. And there's no reason why you would remember this. Now, I remember this because I was a fan of yours, so I thought like, oh, look, there's Terry Crews, like passing by my soundstage.
Where was this, in New York?
No, this was on CBS Radford. So on the CBS Radford lot, I was filming The X's right across the way.
Oh, yes, of course.
Stage 17. And,
right.
I would always see you guys in your uniforms, trudging back and forth. And the show was absolutely hilarious. And so I was so glad
well, thanks. And I apologize. I hope I waved back. Or
you did. No, you did. You did.
Okay.
No apology necessary. No, you totally waved back. And I was just very glad that the universe brought us together.
Yes, me
eventually.
too.
And you did, I mean, that was a lot of episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
We did 153 episodes of that show. Yeah.
Wow.
We were very lucky. And as you guys know, that's kind of the lottery. That's what you're hoping for when, well, not all you're hoping for when you get into the business, but that type of stability is always very nice and rare.
Yes, indeed. And to be able to enjoy it, I feel like from watching the show and certainly knowing some of the other cast, I feel like that must have been a fun ride.
It was heaven. It was heaven. Yeah. We were lucky that, we didn't have to suffer any divas or egos. And I think it's because most of the people on the show had already been working a little bit, with the exception of Stephanie, I think that was her first big break. She had done some other stuff, but because everyone had been in the business, everyone knew how rare it was that we had a show where we had great writing and actors that were committed to the work and didn't make it about anything else. And so there was a real appreciation for the chemistry, sure, but also just the luck of the draw, the fact that this was a rare stew of good ingredients.
And, they say there's always one on every set, right? There's always one person who's trouble. And if you don't know who it is, it's you.
Maybe it is me.
But,
no.
But
I thought it was the perfect cast. And now that I think about this.
But that's my point, is that it's a great...
Almost the perfect cast.
Almost. We blew the lid off. This is the controversy. We blew the lid off it now.
No.
I'm wondering why I was never invited to the lunch table. Now I get it.
Well, maybe we.
Everyone was, quote, taking naps during lunch. Wait a second.
Well, that's interesting, because as you were walking past and we were waving, I did notice everyone else going the other way.
And just holding their finger up to the mouth, saying, shh, right. Like, waving their hands. Don't let them know that we're behind him.
No, my point is there are sets out there. There are groups of people. There is work to be done, stories to be told, where we don't have to go into it assuming that anybody's going to be a problem, and you really do. You really, if you're lucky and you get to experience that, it's important to remember there's some great TV shows, plays, movies where everything felt just as it should have, and that's a good thing. That's very positive and very
well. It's good to remember that you don't even know that you're on something so great unless you've been on something that wasn't so great.
Right.
Where it doesn't work and there is a diva and you're like, why are we standing here and someone's in their trailer for 2 hours, doesn't want to come out. What a blessing to be with a group of people that all care as much as we hear you do, Joe.
I think I've been lucky in that, starting out, which was with a group of friends in college and the sketch group called The State, that from the get-go, it was always about a collaboration and understanding the importance of trust in a safe environment in order to act the fool. And so it luckily, the projects after that, which, as of now, the tail end of that is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But in between that, there was of course, Reno, a lot of the work with Judd Apatow and those guys. All of them were involved ensembles that needed to let everyone shine as opposed to feeding, number one on the call sheet. And so, I've just been very in tune to the power of that, of collaboration, and especially in comedy. And so luckily, I really haven't been involved in any nightmare productions. I mean, I'm sure there were egos on some commercials I did, believe it or not. But I've been lucky. Like, I don't have too many horror stories of that. And I like to think it's kind of just a birds of a feather situation.
Yeah. Well, listen, we don't do horror stories. We'll get later. We'll get to your worst audition story ever. But we don't do gossip and dirt, of course, and negative here on Confessions of the Working Actor. But I like I like where this has started in terms of you very early on knowing what it felt like to be part of an ensemble, and that's probably really valuable as an actor. Was The State how you got started? Was that right out of school? How did you get started?
Yeah, the Early on, it was, like many of us, high school drama and film clubs and making short movies with, a camcorder that weighed 100 pounds. But in terms of the professional life, it began at NYU, where I met a lot of the people from the state. And we had a unique kind of introduction to the business in that we were together as a group for 4 years, and then had a friend who had a connection on MTV, and things fell into place where we did like a little pilot, and then everything happened. And then suddenly at 22, you have this show that you're writing and producing, directing, and that creates quite a big head, quite a big ego. And so my reckoning happened after the group was done, and suddenly I needed to find my own kind of identity. And luckily I did. But it began with the state. That was my introduction to the business on a professional level.
And when you knew you wanted to be an actor before you went to NYU?
I did, but I actually was more interested in directing. I had always loved performing and was in plays and enjoyed acting, but I didn't want to go into the drama department because I think I was a little bit bullheaded in that, you don't need to learn how to act. It's an instinctual thing and I can do it. And it also wasn't like a priority. Again, it was like the filmmaking. So when I got to NYU, I met Michael Showalter first, and he kind of pulled me to this audition of this new sketch group that was happening on campus. But no, I was interested in acting. I certainly would have pursued it, but I entered actually the film department at NYU. Yeah.
What did you do right and what did you do wrong at the beginning of your career? Like, can you share with maybe some of the people that are listening that are just starting out a piece of advice that may change their path?
I think what I did right was that I found my people, and that I found people that I just related to, forget like creatively, although that was important, but just was able to talk to and laughed at the same things and liked some of the same movies and just felt like you kind of had a worldview that was very similar, based in humor. I mean, I think that's where most of my connections with people start. And I think I did that right. I think I was able to surround myself with, at heart, kind people, good people, but obviously very talented people as well. I think the stuff where I went wrong was I think I was pretty impatient with what my trajectory was going to be and how long it was going to take for me to kind of find my groove as an actor, where I fit in the business, in the industry. How are they perceiving me? I think that's shouldn't be your driving force, but I think you need to kind of acknowledge that for sure to be most productive. So I think where I went wrong was comparing myself to other people's trajectory and leaning into alcohol or any other substance to kind of alleviate that feeling of, when is my time gonna happen already? I've been busting my balls for 10 years, and all of the things that you kind of tell yourself that ends up sabotaging yourself. That was something that I had to struggle with pretty early on. I would probably tell my younger self, just, chill out. But it's hard to tell a 20-year-old to chill out.
Yeah.
None of us are chill.
No, that doesn't go well. Yeah. But thank you for saying that. I think that I think that's something that a lot of actors can relate to. Certainly, if as an actor you've been lucky enough to create any body of work or have made a living at it for a little while, I certainly know that I felt the exact same way. And hearing you say that, I'm like, you know what? I should admit that was something that I could have used a little more patience about myself, which was, when is the next big thing? When is the next big job? And when is the industry going to figure out exactly where to put me to facilitate that? And it's hard to be patient.
But here's the crushing thing about that, is that it doesn't really get any better. I mean, I'm still struggling with that now after Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Show's been done for a year and a half. I've had 3 jobs. I see other friends, other cast members shooting up, right? So this, and all deservedly so. Like, I'm very, very, truly excited for them, but also need to kind of manage my own expectation of like, now, so where am I now?
Sure.
And also understanding that I'm in a great place right now. Like, still, that there's sure, there's a resume that I'm proud of and projects that I'm happy that are on there, but I'm also in a place in directing a movie that I wrote, in figuring out what might be the next thing I can create for myself. I think one thing to remember as a working actor who isn't working is that you don't have any control over that. And all you do have control over is what your creative output is going to be during those times. I'm always reassessing, like, whether I still want to do this. I mean, my darkest moment was actually probably just before Brooklyn Nine-Nine, where I'm like, I don't understand how many more of these hoops I'm going to have to jump through. I've done, I was told you need one big kind of breakout role in a movie. And I'd had 3 of them at the time with, like, Superbad and some other movies. And yet it still wasn't happening, right? So I lost my train of thought there for a second. But ultimately, I needed to kind of discover how am I going to get through those pockets of doubt, those pockets of wanting to bail. That's what I was getting at, reassessing.
It's so interesting. I was going to just say that, these are questions we ask, all our guests. And you're just sharing this truth, which is that, for you, there's been moments where you didn't know you wanted to do this. And what does it mean to be a working actor? Does it mean you're working on a show doing, every week? Right. No. Like, are you being creative? Your trajectory, that this idea that we have that, that I'm going to make X amount of dollars this year, and then next year I'm going to make more, and I'm going to make more, and I'm going to make more. And then all of a sudden, why am I feel like I'm at the back of the line? Like, hey, it's me, Chris, back here, I used to be at the front of the line, every casting director they would pull me in past other actors that had been waiting a half hour right when I showed up. And then it seemed like they didn't even know who I was when I walked in the door.
Yep.
Right.
And to manage this expectation and to stay focused and to be a creative individual with, passion when it's not going your way. And I say it all the time. There's only one Joe Lo Truglio. I don't necessarily say that, but there's only one.
That's what I say. That's what I say. When I talk to myself, that's what I say.
At least 2 people say it.
Yeah,
that's right.
There's only one David Allenbitch.
It's weird, and it's weird because Joe actually calls me and says that.
That's right. I keep reminding you.
Don't forget,
That's right.
There's only one Joe Lo Truglio.
But like you have.
You have to,
you do have to manage the darkness. That's what I meant to say. Like I got Brooklyn Nine-Nine at a moment when I was like ready to like throw it in the towel. Like I was like done. And that wouldn't have served anybody, certainly not me. And I don't mean just because I wouldn't have got Brooklyn. I mean, that's just a very easy spiral to get yourself into.
It sure is.
Doing that.
It sure is. And there's, it's, a piece of advice that I got a long time ago was you never know what's coming next, and the universe is already bringing something to you, and that next job you could be one audition away. You never know what it is or when it's coming, but it especially in our darker moments, it's really hard to remember that, for sure.
Yeah, I'm more like 10 auditions away.
Well, it is a numbers game. That's
Joe, so my mother used to say, just stay in line, they'll call your number.
Yeah.
It's when you get out of line. When
That's
you quit.
She's right.
It does,
stay in line.
Stay in line and they call your number, Chris.
That's it. Can't win if you don't play. That's right.
Exactly.
Joe, you mentioned the movie that you directed. I know that you didn't just direct it, you wrote it, directed it, and produced it. Tell us a little bit more about Outpost before we turned on our recording button, the big red recording button. You mentioned that the film will be at a festival. And
yes.
How's it doing? How are you feeling about it? How was the experience?
The experience was life-changing. I've been a horror genre fan from a very young age. This was a dream that I've wanted to write and direct one for a long time. I was able to work with my wife, Beth Dover, who is an incredible actor and partner in the project. and she was just such a gigantic addition to this movie.
Can we get her on the show? Do you think we can get her?
Yes.
All right, let's work on that. All right, let's work on that.
And maybe she'll say there's only one Joe Lo Truglio, but probably not.
We'll see.
The movie went very well. We had the movie is called Outpost. It's about an abuse survivor who decides to take a job as a fire lookout to repair herself and underestimates the isolation and the PTSD. And so we shot in Idaho for about 16 days. And without taking up too much time on the production details, the experience was just wonderful. The movie turned out, I'm very proud of it. However, we got into one festival. I was surprised that we didn't get into more. Again, this goes back to managing your expectation, not judging it too harshly. People say like, you made a movie, but me being who I am and the perfectionist that I am, like, but we're hopefully we'll be selling it within a couple weeks. But the festival in London, Fright Fest, we couldn't be more excited about.
It's Fright Fest. That's great.
I'm thrilled to be showing it in front of a real audience of lovers of the genre.
Fans.
So yeah. So I'm very excited.
What date? Maybe we have some listeners in London.
Yes. That's right. It's October. The festival is October 28th and 29th. It's their October program. They just finished their larger program in August, which went very well. And so, yes, I'll be in London on the 28th, and I'll be there for a week. But the festival will be on the 28th and 29th. So come on out as soon as tickets go on sale, which is pretty soon.
That's great. And, you reminded me of something which is a great phrase, that expectations are really just premeditated resentments. And in our business, especially, no matter, it's good to hear you say that no matter, it's not just about an acting job. Sometimes it's you're going to direct, you're going to write, you're going to create. But it's still important to try to let go of our expectations because it's difficult. It's easier said than done, right? I mean, especially with something like directing, I found is so much harder to throw yourself out there, especially if you wrote it, because everything and produced it, everything is you. Whereas an actor, you can blame it on script, the direction, a million things. Right.
With directing a film, I just feel naked. Especially when it's out of your wheelhouse. This isn't a comedy either. So it's been
you produced it?
I produced it as well.
So you raised the money. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, I invested money. It's also self-financed along with two other investors. So, it was a big deal.
It's a true independent film. I just want to say that, lots of talk about independent film lately, and most of it is bullshit because people are talking about, well, it's an independent film. It's really not. They have $15 million. And a studio attached, or somebody that's already said they're going to distribute it. That, in my mind, that's not an independent film. An independent film is what you did, where I have a story I want to tell, and I'm going to raise the money, and we're going to go make a piece of art where there was no art there before. Which I bow to that effort. And, it's a big effort, and I applaud that. And
thanks. I leaned into that myself. I had to, after the rough cut, I talked to a lot of director friends. Some saw it, and I was really in a place where, like, I think I made the biggest mistake of my life. And, eventually a cut got there. But what they said is like, look, you do not underestimate the fact that you went and said you wanted to make a movie, and you made a movie at the top of a mountain. So it was hard for me to kind of see past some of the obstacles that were pretty large that we, not just myself, but an incredible group of filmmakers did. So it was a good reminder.
And had you been on another show, and had you had the trajectory of maybe one of these other actors on the show, this wouldn't have happened, right? You wouldn't have been able to work with your wife.
That's
and
right.
I think about my parents, and my dad being a director and my mother being an actress, and my dad never putting her in a movie really, until the end of his life. And I'm like, what were you thinking? Man, it could have had the best performance from her because she was so good, Yeah. So I just applaud you already just for for working with your wife. That might not be the easiest thing to direct your wife.
What? What? No, honey. No, I'm not talking about you, honey. No. No, it's Joe.
I'll tell you what the secret was, and please ask when you have Beth on the show to get her perspective. But I think we made a great decision to have separate rooms during production, where we were able to get our own space, both for me as a director who would be up well into the evening thinking about our shot list and the next day's shoot, and Beth, who had given it her all for 12 to 14 hours and needed rest, and just, so it was, I think that saved the movie and possibly the marriage.
Mere marriage. Yeah. I'm somehow still married, even though we didn't do that. We produced a couple of films together. And boy, where were you when I needed you, Joe? That would have, that would have saved me a lot. It would have saved me a lot of nights on the couch. I'll tell you. Was there an experience with, and it could, there's no rules. It could certainly be about your wife, but was there an experience with one of the actors on the movie where you were writing, producing, directing? It could certainly also be any other project, but I wonder about Outpost. And was there an experience, just a positive experience with someone on the set where things went in a way where you thought, like, this is what movie making is supposed to be. This is what creativity is. This is what positive people do when they get together to create.
Wow, that's a great question. I was lucky enough to work with actors that were friends and also had incredible resumes on their own. Dylan Baker, his wife Becky Ann Baker, Dallas Roberts, an incredible actor named Ato Asando. Yeah, and I think what struck me in terms of what you're talking about, and this is what it's about, was being for the climax of the movie. We shot at a tower. We shot on a mountain that was 6,300 feet. On top of this mountain was a tower, a fire lookout tower that was 30 feet, that was only able to hold about 5 people at a time. And we were weren't really running out of light. We were just running out of time. We were shooting in the summer. We had the daylight, but we had to basically shoot a action sequence on the balcony. And it was harrowing and exciting. But as it was happening, everyone was in sync and really making an effort to be creative and quick and efficient. And these were, the DP was my friend Frank, who I'd known since I was 17 years old. There was Otto that I met on this project, but we had become great friends. There was my wife, there was Art. And so everyone was in sync, and the wind is blowing and I'm like, it's happening. We're making something. And people are on the same page, and I'm really feeling like this is quite unique. What's going to end up on this screen is going to be, that energy is going to be there. And so, I mean, that's what first comes to mind. The struggle of independent filmmaking, and when people are in sync. It's a privilege to make movies. It's just a privilege to make movies. Our producer, Cara Baker, always reminded me of that. And it's true because, it's not brain surgery. And yet it's a medium that requires so many different of the fine arts that when it's all in sync, it's just a beautiful thing to be part of.
Yeah. And you didn't have to do it. You got to do it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's something my wife and I say to each other sometimes if we're talking about, I have to be there early tomorrow morning. Well, no,
right.
You get to go to a set tomorrow. It's at 4:30, but you get to go,
Yeah, that's right.
It is a privilege.
You get to chase your kids around.
Yeah.
That's the shift. That's the mental shift you need.
That's a real shift.
Life. Yeah. Boy, if you could take that attitude into your, that's right.
Into your personal life. I get to go through this experience of pain and suffering right now. Like things
I get to debate with my son why he doesn't need to watch YouTube for another hour.
Exactly.
I get to have that experience.
I'll tell you something. Listen, it sounds silly, but I'm dealing with a 13-year-old now, and I have relished every argument and every bit of stubbornness from her, which, by the way, I think is really great, but doesn't feel good at the moment as a parent when your kid is very stubborn, but it'll serve her well in the world. But it's true. It's like these are the good old days, right? Like,
because soon she'll be gone and you'll be like, God, if she was only 13 arguing with me about, whatever it was.
About YouTube.
Right.
If I could only drive them across town right now.
Right.
My son used to be like, can you drive me to Hancock Park from Santa Monica at 2:00 in the afternoon? I'd be, God, I was going to sit in like 2 hours of traffic. And then when he got his car, he was gone. I was like, oh man, if I could I'd just go pick him up with his skate. He's calling me, saying, I'm skateboarding. Can you come get me? I think I broke my arm. I'd be like, I'm coming to get you now.
That's that positive attitude. It's like hearing you say that, Joe, like, it's a privilege to make movies. And I'm not surprised to hear, we started off this episode talking about being a member of an ensemble when you were younger and learning that, when there's a lot of people that all have a positive attitude, especially with improv, yes, and, right, and everybody's on that wavelength and they all feel grateful to be able to be there, you end up with a really special piece of art. And it sounds like that's what Outpost was too. And
It was. I'm forever grateful and will always remember that experience because, and I'll say one more thing, we can move on, is that, I have no idea how this movie is going to land, play, what the reception of this movie is going to be. I do know, however, from the feedback that I got from both the locals in Idaho, the crew that came from Portland and LA, my wife, the cast, that they had an incredible experience shooting that movie. We only have a short amount of time here, right? And the last thing you want to do as a director and producer is waste anyone's time or feel like they said, I didn't really need to do that. All of them and said, like, they're never going to forget that summer. I mean, what's a higher compliment to get? So, that's all I'll say about how wonderful that the decision to hit all the speed bumps full speed with this project and that we made it.
Yeah, and people don't remember, what is it, the quote? People don't remember what you do or what you say, but they remember how you make them feel.
Yes,
and
that's exactly right.
It sounds like everybody on that show, everybody on that movie, will come away from that feeling that they were treated with dignity and respect and respect for their talent and, a wonderful creative endeavor. And I don't think there is a higher calling than that. And I'm not interested in what the box office is or anything else. And it could be a true indie like yours. It could be $100 million movie. But I think that it's rare, but that's it, man. That's the holy grail.
It's not easy to do.
No.
It's not easy to get a script, to, get the actors, get the money, get everybody in the right place at the right time. What a accomplishment in itself to make a film. And, obviously when you have when you have your own money riding and other people's money and you're producing in some way, it changes a little bit. But at the same time, you can't lose perspective and that, creating a place, an environment where people can feel good about themselves and feel like they were involved in something great.
That's right.
You have no control over if a movie blows up or not.
Yeah, that's right.
And the producing is really hard. That's for sure.
We do a segment on the show every week before it gets too late. I figured maybe you might have a great story, but we do a worst audition story ever. Do you have something that sticks in your mind as one of the ones you can't get out of your head?
I do. I forgive me. I mean, I have said it before, but it's a good one. And so in the mid-aughts, I was going through one of those periods of struggle where the state was done. I was doing some commercials here and there, and my fellow state members were involved in their own projects and going very well. And so I was very raw and sensitive about that. So my audition story is that I went in for this project, and I'll leave the project unnamed and the casting director, but I went in and she was explaining the script to me, and she said that, please stick to the script, no improv. And I'm going to turn on the camera and I'm going to ask you a few questions, and then we'll go into it. I said, great. She turned on the camera, and the first question she asked was, so you're from a very funny comedy group called The State. Yeah. Met them in college. Yeah. And now, so many of them now are involved in all these other projects and you're not yet. Are you? What is that? How do you feel about that? Or what can you tell me about that?
That was the first question?
That was the first question. And in my head, it might have been, maybe it was, what's your name, Joe? But in my head, that's how it started off. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't believe it because, it hit the chord of my anxiety that I had been dealing with for months. And in that moment, I decided I was going to improv and not listen to any of the notes that she gave me. And so I did. and I ended up getting the job. So it turned a corner. And I just want to say, because I have told this before, that I don't think that this casting director meant to be malicious. I choose to believe that because it wouldn't really make any sense for her to really put me off. I think perhaps what she was trying to do is maybe get some type of anger humor out from me, like, oh, I'm not quite sure what, but I want to kind of think positive that maybe she was just trying to elicit some type of reaction out of me to get me fired up and have a good audition. Who knows? But
and she got one.
Well, she's a good casting director because she got it exactly.
Yeah, she might have really turned.
She may have won an Emmy for that show. I think that's right. That's right. Thank you for sharing that. We'll turn the corner from horrifying, even though you did get the part. We'll turn the corner to sort of our wrap-up kind of thing. You've given us lots to think about already, but best piece of advice, something that's carried you through. You know, we've heard you talk about creating and telling stories and, you know, even when actors are feeling like they want to give up, maybe they should keep going, right? But best piece of advice, something you want to pass along.
I would, it's something that I learned through working for a while, and it's two things that I like to use as a driving guidepost, which is make it about the work and don't be a dick. And with those two big ideas, I feel like you can achieve the best of your creative ability and also be a pleasant energy to be around, because it's okay to get passionate about the work and it's okay to get pissy about the work if it's about the work, but it's never okay to be a dick. And then, and I just want to say, I was thinking about this, and I also wanted to just, another piece of advice was one that I got from legendary character actor Richard Kind.
Yes.
This was during.
Richard's been a guest on the show.
Oh, and by the way, he's loving that we're talking about him right now.
He is now. He's rewinding it again, and he's listening to you say legendary character.
Yes,
actor.
That's right. I sing his praises all the time. Deservedly so. So during the third or fourth season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I ran into him, and he's like, "Joe, the show is great. You deserve every bit of success, and you're terrific on the show. And one day the show's going to end, and you're going to get good again." and I knew what he meant, which is, and I'll kind of segue this into an initial piece of advice, which is that challenge yourself as an actor. And once you start getting into a groove of a certain character after so long, then get ready to do something different and don't fall into any particular pattern. Don't coast. Don't coast. Keep challenging, yourself as an actor or a writer, whatever it is. But I thought that was a very healthy piece of advice from Richard Kind as well.
It is great advice, because who wants to be with Joe Lo Truglio for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years when he's an actor? No one wants to be, when they hire you, like if there's 3 people they think are all, all these guys work, but this guy's great. We would have a great time working with this guy for 2 months, 1 week, 2 years. What if this show goes for 7 years? And we got to be
153 episodes. That's right.
Yeah. Do we want to be with this guy for this long? And you got to remember that, as an actor.
Yeah,
for sure. And I feel lucky, and just I'll that's a testament also to Dan Gore and Mike Shore and Andy Samberg on Brooklyn, that they made it a mandate not to hire any of the problem people. Yeah. So it's true. I think that serves you well. It will get you jobs too.
And I bet they didn't coast either, as
they did not.
Showrunners and actors and
no.
And that's such good advice. Don't coast. Yeah. And I think it applies. I've been lucky enough to do a bunch of series, and when you get to episode 60 or 70, there is a part of all actors, I think, that can feel like, I could do this with my eyes closed. Like I know this guy. I know who this guy is.
Yeah.
Comedy, I think it's a little harder, because comedy in my mind, takes a little more energy and focus on the timing. But it could also be, it doesn't have to be on a show in season 5. It could be a play, and you've done the play, and maybe you got a good review or two, and you think the show is up on its feet. And I've certainly experienced this with other actors who then start to maybe change some things, or they're not quite there, or the things slow down a little bit, doesn't have that crackle, and it's like, oh, you're starting to coast. And never coast, never phone it in.
Never coast.
Never coast. That's it. Amen.
Agreed.
Never coast.
Amen. I think that's the name of your autobiography, by the way.
That's it. Never coast.
I just want to offer that to you. Joe Lo Truglio, Never Coast.
Never coast.
Joe, thank you for talking to us.
Did that it? It went by so quickly.
It goes by fast. It goes by fast.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, once we turn the recording off, I'm going to tell you how much we want to have your wife on the show, but we're still recording. So let's ask one more question. How about that? Because we have the time. You talked about when you were creating this film, having separate rooms so that Beth as an actress could have her space and you as a writer, producer, director could have your space. I have 2 actors in my house. And you have 2 in your house. And we probably have actors listening that are married to each other or thinking they're about to propose to another actor. So before they do, a thought on that? A thought on what's good about that?
About being married to another actor?
What there is to be grateful for about that?
Well, you don't feel invisible. All your kind of the struggles and anxieties and challenges that one has as an actor, you have someone that truly understands that frustration. And I think that's a big part of it. And the other part is this person knows how important feeling heard and noticed and supported as an artist is. And it's kind of crucial on those days where you're just not feeling it to have someone say, hey, man, will you take a look at what you've done over the past 30 years? Stop, pull yourself up, chin up. Like, what are you doing? Snap out of it. Like, enough. Like, they're able to pull you out of some clouds.
In our house, we call that being the believing mirror, right? Is when you don't see it, you can't see it in yourself. So you need, and when you look in the mirror, sometimes you just hear those nasty voices in your head or the demons or whatever. So you need a different mirror. You need a believing mirror. And I know that my wife is that for me, and I try to be that for her, which is, when she is having those dark times, I try to show up and say, "Hey, listen, let me tell you what's real, right? Never mind what's going on in your self-doubt and your fear and your the back of your brain and your amygdala there. Let's talk about what I know to be true. Like, let's go over here on the wall, look at this award. Let's talk about this experience you had with this person who's a critically acclaimed artist. Let's talk about all the things you did that were good for the world. It's really important to have that believing mirror."
It's agreed, and that's a great term for it. That's exactly what it is. And it's wonderful to see your partner kind of grow as an artist. Like, Beth knew me before my success that I had, and I know her before her success with Orange is the New Black, and it's great to kind of see that evolution and see the joy in this person that you love. Like, they did it. They made a step. They got to, and I saw it. I saw them where they were, before that step.
Now, if Beth comes on and says, I pulled Joe up by my bootstraps, he just rode my coattails, we're going to have a problem. But that's all right. We'll revisit. Right.
That's okay.
That's what the editors are for.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
We'll fix it in post.
You got to leave the jealousy at the door,
Yes.
You got to leave that behind because, when your partner's shining and their star's shining and you're like, at the back of the line.
Right.
You got to be able to lift them up no matter what, and know that your time's coming.
And that's good advice for certainly for romantic relationships, but that's also true with friends. I mean, I have a friend who called me today, and he said, "Hey, I wanted to call and tell you because you're a friend, and I want to celebrate with you. I just got a Broadway play." Right. And my first instinct was, that's fucking great. I'm so proud of you. And then the little demon inside me said, where's my Broadway play?
Yeah.
Right. And
wait, I read for that.
Yeah. Well, that usually happens. Thankfully, I didn't for this one, but that almost always happens.
Wait a second. I read for that.
Congratulations. You got that part I really wanted. Yeah. But I was able to say, like, tell me all about it. Yeah. Tell me all about it. Like, that's fantastic. How did it happen? Tell me about the audition. That's great. And when do you start? We'll be there. We'll be cheering you on. And it is important.
That's great.
It's not just husband and wife. It is important, especially as actors, that we remember there's enough work to go around. one person working doesn't take work away from another person. Even if you get the part that somebody else auditioned for. You know, I have a bunch of guys, we kind of look alike. We audition together, and we have a deal, which is if they get the part, they take me out to a nice dinner, have a glass of wine. If I get the part, I take them out, right?
Oh, that's a great setup.
It's just a way of saying, like, hey, sometimes it's you, sometimes it's me.
Yeah.
Leave, like Chris just said, leave the jealousy at the door.
Yeah, that's great. It's a healthy way to go. You also feel great when you start celebrating someone's achievement.
Yes.
It's almost an immediate, feeling as soon as you start saying like, that's great, man. So where do you shoot? Like, and who else is in it? Oh, that director's great. Like, you start, it starts coming around.
Feel what's possible, feel the positivity. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, I'm a little jealous of you, Joe Lo Truglio, I have to say.
Well, right back at you, Mr. Beige and Mr. Reno.
Well, all right.
Well, Joe, thanks for coming on and sharing your wealth of knowledge with us and with the listeners. And
thank you for having. Very, very kind of you to say.
A real
Especially
gift.
if the engineers left all that ending part in. That would be good.
Well, thank you guys for having me, and we can circle back if there's any unanswered questions on my wife's episode.
Yes, we very well may. We're taking copious notes, and we'll have her.
Yeah, because when we get her on, then we're going to have to get both of you on at the same time to kind of like straighten some stuff.
That's right.
Yeah, we might listen. I think we
and Chris, great to meet you, Chris, and safe travels back from London.
Thank you. I wish I was going to be here for your screening. I would love to see your film. I'm leaving on the 1st of just next Saturday.
Safe travels.
And good luck with the film, Joe. For everybody who's listening, Outpost, you're going to see it soon. So when you do see it, click it, buy it, rent it, like it, review it. A true independent film that deserves your attention.
Appreciate that. Thanks, guys. This is
Thanks,
great.
Joe.
Thank you, Joe. We'll see you soon. Well, it's been another great 20 minutes with you, my friend.
And you too, brother. This has been fun.
Yeah, that was great.
Cool. I thought that was awesome. All right, star that.
That was terrific.
And we got another great guest coming up next week, so be sure to tune in again to Confessions of a Working Actor.